Hello dear friends, you're watching the Ruslan Belov channel and this is your daily analytical briefing from the Ukrainian front. Before we get into it, a big ask. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please do it right now and make sure to hit the bell icon for notifications. YouTube is actively suppressing military analytical content. The algorithms throttle it, slash its reach, and without your support, many people simply won't see these episodes. Every subscription, every like, and every comment is real, tangible help keeping this channel alive. Thank you to everyone already with us. And a special thank you to our sponsors and those who support the channel through Super Thanks. You make this work possible. Now, to the front. It's been an eventful 24 hours, and we have plenty to talk about. Drones over Latvia, a precedent that cannot be ignored. Let's start with something that hasn't happened before in this war. Ukrainian drones flew over the territory of Latvia, a NATO member state. Video of the incident is already circulating online. One drone struck a passenger train, another hit a fuel depot. This isn't just a tactical episode, it's a political precedent of enormous scale. To call things by their proper names, Ukraine struck a NATO ally. Was it accidental? Possibly. But the fact remains. And the question isn't whether it was intentional. The question is how the alliance will respond. The answer, it won't. Because Europe is waging a proxy war against Russia through Ukraine, and any scandal that puts that in question is inconvenient for everyone involved. Latvia will stay silent, NATO will stay silent, and the incident will quietly fade away. But here's what's worth thinking about. If Europe continues churning out hundreds, and eventually thousands, of long-range drones for the AFU, and if these machines are already straying into alliance territory today, what happens when the count reaches 500 units a day? No air defense system in the world can cover that volume. It's physically impossible. And at that point, the question of whether Russian drones will respond symmetrically, targeting the infrastructure of countries directly participating in the conflict, stops being rhetorical. The Baltic states and Poland aren't just supplying weapons, they're providing logistics, intelligence, and training. Their involvement is direct, so don't be surprised if escalation moves in exactly this direction. NATO is not a monolith of iron will. Trump called them paper tigers, and frankly, there's not much reason to think otherwise so far. Sumi region, bridgeheads expanding but cautiously. Now to the front itself, we move from north to south. First point, the Shostka direction in Sumi region. Russian forces have recorded an advance here. A so-called pocket was closed, and troops pushed forward nearly 2 kilometers from the border toward the village of Bachevsk. Interestingly, this movement hasn't yet appeared on some maps, even though footage from objective control cameras already exists. What does this mean in practical terms? If Russian forces take Bachevsk, another bridgehead takes shape on this axis, significant enough to force AFU command to react and redirect reserves. Syrskyi will face a choice: strip other sectors or keep forces tied down here. Either option comes at a price. However, calling this a breakthrough would be premature. The forces committed to this direction are relatively small, and without a serious build-up, reaching somewhere like Kharkiv, a real urban center with genuine operational significance, isn't realistic. Kharkiv is a different conversation entirely. Different resources, different operational logic. For now, the expansion of the bridgehead is work aimed at attrition and threat creation, not an attempt at a breakthrough. Useful, but not revolutionary. On the main Sumi bridgehead, no changes. But on the Krasnopilia direction, fighting continues for Ryazne. The objective here is clear and specific: straighten the front line across the full width of the bridgehead, creating a unified, manageable defensive and offensive line. From the incoming data, fighting is already underway in the center of Ryazne. That's a good sign. After it's taken, the path opens toward Lizna and Maiske, and from there, a strike on Krasnopilia from 2 directions simultaneously, from the south and from the east. That's already pincer logic at the operational level. The prospects here are considerably more interesting than on the Shostka sector. Kharkiv region, crossing the Vovcha River and growing pressure. Moving to Kharkiv region. Before breaking down specific settlements, important context. Over the past 2 weeks, the AFU have been reporting a sharp increase in Russian forces' use of FPV drones across the entire front. This isn't isolated incidents, it's a systemic tactical shift. Enemy personnel are being engaged on approach to positions before they can entrench. This fundamentally changes the mechanics of defense. Holding positions is now significantly more costly in human terms. Fighting continues in the Veterinan area, but no significant movement of the contact line has been achieved. The situation there is a grinding, attritional slog. On the Vovchansk sector, however, something worth discussing separately has occurred. Russian units crossed the Vovcha River at yet another point and entered Kharkivka. This is on-the-ground information. No confirmation via objective control footage existed at the time of recording, but the source is credible. If the crossing holds, expect good news from this direction within the next week to 10 days. Every new bridgehead across the river places additional strain on the AFU's already overstretched defense in the region. No news from the Veliki Burluk bridgehead today. Kupansk direction, the ring tightens. Kupansk as a city remains in a grey zone, no serious changes there. But on the left bank of the Oscill River, the picture is different. Russian forces advanced 3 kilometers and expanded their zone of control in Novusin, firmly establishing themselves in the northern part of the settlement. From there, infantry is filtering into Kovsharivka, steadily building pressure across the sector. But the most interesting development is further north. According to available data, AFU positions remain in the tree lines there. However, the exit corridor has narrowed to less than 800 meters. That is a critically important figure. Slipping through a 750-meter bottleneck under fire is a task bordering on impossible. Drones aren't even necessary here. Standard small arms fire covers such a passage. In effect, if the data is accurate, a portion of the AFU force in this pocket has found itself in operational encirclement. No rotation, no wounded evacuation, no proper resupply. This is slow but inexorable attrition. The dynamics on the left bank of the Oscill are unambiguously in favor of Russian forces. The pace is not lightning fast, but it is consistent, and consistency is what decides things here. Sloviansk and Kramatorsk directions, crossing the Sloviansk and Donets. Now the central sector, and here there is information that, if confirmed, will prove very significant. On the Sloviansk direction, assault operations are underway in the area of Rai Oleksandrivka. The AFU is attempting to counterattack toward Minkivka and Fedorivka Druha. At the time of recording, no advances were recorded on either side. It's positional attrition. The main story from this sector is different. According to incoming reports, Russian forces have crossed the Sloviansk and Donets and established themselves in the area of Tatyanivka and Prishib. If confirmed, this is a significant tactical achievement. Every crossing of a major water obstacle is not just a bank seized, it's a bridgehead from which a wider operation can unfold. The Ukrainian side, meanwhile, does not acknowledge the loss of several settlements, Sosnov, Yarova, or Oleksandrivka. Yet from each of these locations, footage has already emerged showing Russian military presence. Multiple clips from Sosnov on different days, systematic footage from Yarova, and footage from the Sviatohirsk area showing forward Russian positions. Pro-Ukrainian maps paint the situation in their favor, but video is a stubborn thing. Fighting on the approaches to Sviatohirsk continues. How accurate the information about Tatyanivka and Prishib is, we'll know within the next few days. Stay tuned. On Lyman, it's quiet today. A number of sources reported AFU counterattacks toward Dibrova and Ozerne, but this has not been confirmed. Constantinivka. The blockade is working. Now Constantinivka, and there is significant information here, though without video confirmation so far, only from a soldier on the ground. According to his account, fighting has shifted to the northeastern part of the city, Titova Street, Preobrazhenska Street, and adjacent blocks. Active assault operations are underway precisely there. Everything to the south is a different story. An AFU garrison remains there, but a blockaded one. Ground logistics have been effectively severed. Resupply by land is no longer possible. Supplies arrive exclusively by drone, which means no troop rotation, no evacuation of the wounded, no proper replenishment of ammunition or personnel. The remaining garrison is slowly but surely bleeding out, in both the literal and figurative sense. This is exactly the pattern that played out in Siversk: first blockade, then attrition, then a swift collapse. If the current dynamics hold, Constantinivka will not fall in May. That's a realistic assessment. But in summer, the chances are very high, near certain if the current pressure can be sustained. On the city's left flank, Russian units have already reached the multi-story residential blocks. The AFU is losing ground there too. The overall picture suggests that the question of Constantinivka is no longer one of outcome, but of timing. Andronivka direction, Army Group Center opens a new axis. And finally, a strategic development worth examining on its own. Army Group Center has officially announced the opening of a new operational axis. Until now, the westward movement along the E50 highway was classified under the Dobrovolya direction, aimed at the city of Dobropilya. That western vector has now been designated as a separate direction, the Andronivka direction. The intermediate objective is the settlement of Andronivka in Dnipropetrovsk region. Why Andronivka specifically? The distance from current positions on the E50 highway to Andronivka is approximately 19 to 20 kilometers. That is a realistic operational objective in the foreseeable term. Calling it the Pavlohrad direction would be premature. Pavlohrad is considerably further, but it is precisely Pavlohrad that sits at the end of this axis. The highway leads there directly, and reaching Andronivka opens the path for a further advance toward Pavlohrad, along an already prepared operational line. It's also worth noting the Dobropilya direction. The AFU made gains yesterday in the areas of Novy Donbass and Belitske, small but real successes, reflected on the maps. This is a reminder that the front is alive in both directions, and writing off the opponent would be a mistake. Political landscape: Zelensky under pressure, Iran rewrites the rules. Now, politics. There's plenty to discuss here as well. The Mindich Gate affair continues to gather momentum. New leaks, new blows to Zelensky's position. According to available information, the president views the release of the recordings as a deliberate conspiracy by Ukrainian elites against him personally. Inside the Ukrainian power structure, a fierce struggle is underway for control over financial flows. The Zelensky-Yermak group is clashing with American-backed figures. Corruption schemes remain tied to Umarov. The sanctions against Bohdan read as a clear signal. Any political activity on this track will be crushed. The presidential office understands perfectly well that an anti-Zelensky coalition has long been in place, comprising oligarchs, officials, and security service figures who are systematically leaking information from Bankova, the cabinet of ministers, and the courts. Running in parallel, an important social dimension. Ukrainians are exhausted. The war drags on, corruption is visible to all, mobilization has become lawless. Every crime is justified by military necessity, generating legal nihilism at every level of society. Dozens of incidents are recorded daily in which men are forcibly detained, without court order, without legal basis, simply because enforcement personnel have been granted the right to operate outside the law. This cannot but affect morale and the population's relationship with the state. Now, Iran and the Strait of Hormuz, and this is arguably the most geopolitically significant story of the day. Tehran has officially announced new rules of passage through the Strait of Hormuz. Henceforth, any vessel wishing to transit the strait must notify Iranian authorities in advance, receive an electronic communication outlining the conditions of passage, and await a transit permit from a newly established state authority specifically created by Tehran to control the strait. In effect, Iran is asserting sovereignty over Hormuz by the same model under which Egypt controls the Suez Canal. This is not a threat. This is an already functioning regulatory mechanism. What does this mean strategically? If the new status quo is permanently enshrined, a precedent is set. And next in line will be the Bab el-Mandeb Strait, where the Houthis, acting as an extension of Tehran, may also move to assert control over shipping. Two straits under Islamic control represents a fundamental shift in global logistics and in the regional balance of power. Berlin's reaction is telling. Chancellor Merz, who not long ago was building an independent line of policy, now says Germany is prepared to help the United States reopen the Strait of Hormuz, up to and including the use of military force. His list of demands toward Iran is standard: negotiations, nuclear disarmament, an end to strikes on Israel. Fine rhetoric, but analysts note something else. It was precisely the withdrawal of 5,000 American soldiers from Germany and the cancellation of Tomahawk deployment that so dramatically changed Merz's tone toward Washington. Berlin experienced firsthand what security without the American umbrella actually feels like, and immediately became far more accommodating. Iran itself has yet to give an official response to the latest American proposals. According to the Iranian Tasnim news agency, the American text contains unacceptable provisions. Tehran studied it, but then Trump again escalated his rhetoric, and that stalled the process. The Iranian side has now resumed its internal review and will inform the intermediary of its decision when a final position is reached. For context, Iran submitted its own 14-point plan to the United States. Washington responded with its own version. Trump, meanwhile, continues to balance between threatening to wipe Iran off the map and the practical necessity of reaching a deal. This is classic negotiating schizophrenia, and the Iranian side, a seasoned player in this game, knows exactly how to exploit it. Operation Epic Fury will be concluded only if Tehran accepts American terms, but accepting those terms in their current form is, by all appearances, not something Iran is in any hurry to do. That's all for today's episode, friends. The situation on the front continues to evolve, not always rapidly, but steadily and without pause. Stay tuned for updates, don't forget to subscribe, leave a like, and hit the bell. It genuinely helps the channel survive the pressure of platform algorithms. See you in the next episode.